Does talent level matter when it comes to Tennessee's offense? I want to show you a couple plays from last year's Georgia game that demonstrates why the talent level of the offense does matter. The reason I bring up this topic at all is because recently on Twitter, there were some Georgia fans mostly who were saying it doesn't matter whether Josh Heupel has 3-star athletes or 5-star athletes running his offense because the offense is limited. It can only do so much that when it runs up against a good defense like what they have at Georgia, then it can't win. Basically, the old system gimmick argument saying that blue chip recruits, 4- and 5-star guys, shouldn't waste their time at Tennessee because there's only so much that they can achieve there. Now, I would point out that Georgia's defense is not the only good defense Tennessee played last year, and it's not the only game where Tennessee had a disadvantage in talent. On paper, Florida, LSU, Alabama, and Clemson all have higher rated talent than what Tennessee has, and Tennessee beat all 4 of those teams, right? Really what this comes down to is Georgia fans and even some of their media being scared of what it's going to look like when Tennessee flips the blue chip ratio in their favor and has weapons all over the field like some of these other teams do. So the first play I want to show you is from the middle of the first quarter. It's 2nd and 12, 7:30 left in the first quarter. Georgia's up 7-3, and Tennessee just runs a little draw play. The first thing I'd point out about this play is it's blocked perfectly. If you look across the offensive line, there's a hat on a hat everywhere. Everybody is blocked. I would also point out how the defensive backs have their back turned to the play. They are so afraid of getting the ball thrown over their head that they have turned and run, and they're out of the play because of the threat of the deep ball. And there's one player on Georgia's defense who has an opportunity to make a play. It's Malachi Starks, okay? And here's where talent level matters, all right? Jalen Wright gets the ball, and listen, I like Jalen Wright. I'm not making this in order to rip Jalen Wright or Tennessee's running backs. I think that Jalen Wright and Jabari Small do a really good job for Tennessee. They produced really well. If you go to the blog, cornfromajar.com, and you can look at our stat review for the 2022 running backs, I even make the argument that Jalen Wright's a little underrated, that he's possibly our best running back, and really the way he produces, he's one of the best in the SEC. But the fact is, he found himself in a one-on-one with a more talented player. Okay, Malachi Starks was a top 10 player coming out of high school, high 5-star guy. And Jalen Wright's a mid 3-star guy. He's barely a top 500 player coming out of high school by most of the recruiting services. So in a one-on-one battle with a better player, the better player makes the play. And if you have a more dynamic running back right there, you know, maybe Cam Seldon turns into the guy for Tennessee that can make this play, or maybe not. Maybe it's somebody else. But you have a more dynamic player, a running back right there, somebody who has a little more wiggle, a little more burst. That could be a 30, 40, 50-yard play. It certainly should have been a first down, but it could have been a 50-yard play. It could have been a touchdown, right? And right on that play, Tennessee could have gone up 10-7 in the first quarter. It's a different game. So don't tell me that talent level doesn't matter when you can see right here an example of where if you had a more talented player, maybe he makes that play and changes the game. On the very next play, Tennessee throws an incomplete pass. But if you notice here, both at the top of the screen and at the bottom of the screen, at the top you've got Jalen Hyatt. He gets wide open. At the bottom of the screen, Brew McCoy. He gets wide open. I mean, they have destroyed the defense on this play. But the front seven for Georgia is full of those blue chip guys. And Tennessee's offensive line, again, I'm not trying to drag any of these kids. I think they do a great job with what they have at Tennessee. But you've got Cooper Mays and Darnell Wright, who are both blue chip guys. And you got a bunch of 3-star guys in other places on the line. Georgia gets some pressure. Hendon Hooker barely gets set before he sees red jerseys flashing in front of him. He's got to rush the throw, and it's overthrown when he has 2 receivers deep. He never even saw Brew. He basically just went to his fail-safe, screw it, Jalen's open down there somewhere, I'm just going to chunk it. Tennessee could have taken the lead right there on that play in the first quarter. You upgrade the line talent, give the quarterback a little bit more time to set and make a better throw. It's a different game right there, because what happens next is Tennessee has to punt. They actually held Georgia on the next drive, but then Georgia unleashes the greatest punt you've ever seen in your life and pins Tennessee at the half-yard line, and things kind of fall apart from there over the next several minutes of the game before Tennessee really stabilized again. And the game was actually closer than a lot of people give it credit for, but that's a different argument for a different day. I'd point out the other part of this discussion was, well, when you do have a 4-star guy like a Jalen Hyatt, this offense doesn't do him any favors because he doesn't learn how to run routes. First of all, you're getting stuff like that from people who wouldn't know a route tree if it was growing in their front yard. But I would point this out. Jalen Hyatt, his first 2 years at Tennessee, didn't do much of anything, okay? It's not because he didn't have the talent. It's because, for whatever reason, he wasn't producing. And the NFL scouts had 3 years of tape on him. And yes, his junior year tape was phenomenal, but they also had 2 other years to go on. And so the argument that it took a 4-star Biletnikoff Award winner and dropped him to the 3rd round is ignoring the other piece, which is Cedric Tillman, who came in as a low 3-star guy and elevated him to the 3rd round. Josh Heupel has 6 wide receivers drafted in the last 4 years. I'm pretty sure that's more than any other coach in college football. So his offense, you can call it a gimmick, you can call it a system, you can call it whatever you want to call it. The truth is, it gives guys an opportunity to shine. It gives guys an opportunity to show off their talents, okay? And as that roster becomes more and more talented, as that roster upgrades with more and more of these blue chip guys, stars aren't everything. There's tons of examples of guys who, Cedric Tillman, like I just said, came in as a low 3-star guy and became a great player for Tennessee, right? And becomes a 3rd round draft pick. So stars aren't everything, but the more of those guys you have, the better chance it gives you to go and compete, okay? If you go to cornfromajar.com, we have a depth by class chart that shows you how many players Tennessee has at each position and when their eligibility runs out, basically. On that chart, I've tried to indicate players who were blue chip guys coming in, guys who were maybe high 3-star guys coming in, and guys who were ranked lower than that, and guys who weren't ranked at all. And you can look at that chart and kind of get an idea of where Tennessee might be looking to upgrade the roster in some certain places. And so I'll leave a link to that down in the description of the video. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up for me. That'd help me out a lot. And thanks to all you folks on Rocky Top for getting your corn from a jar.